1. In life, you gain some and you lose some. In this world, everything has its gains and losses. This is evident in many aspects of life. For example, love can bring joy but also pain. Wealth can offer pleasure but also causes worry. Success can make you happy, but the agony of failure is hard to bear. When someone anticipates something and achieves it, they feel immense happiness. However, losing it can cause equally great sorrow. The intensity of joy and sorrow is always the same. Some may gain wealth but lose their health, family, or love. Others may not have much career success but enjoy great health and quality of life. It might seem unfair at first, but in reality, it balances out fairly for everyone. People often think that those with money are always happy, but this isn't entirely true. A poor person might find joy spending a small amount of money, whereas a wealthy person may need to spend much more to find the same joy. As one's preferences change, so does their perception of everything. More money diminishes the value of money, making it harder to buy happiness. There's an old story about a hungry fox who saw a grapevine loaded with grapes in a garden. Despite its efforts, it couldn't find a way in. After discovering a small hole in the fence, it realized it was too big to fit through. The fox then waited outside for 6 days without eating and eventually became thin enough to squeeze through. It enjoyed the grapes immensely, but later couldn't escape the same way due to its full belly. To escape, it had to starve for another 6 days and ended up right where it started, gaining nothing from the ordeal. Ancient wisdom says, a single branch is enough for a bird nesting in the forest. Similarly, if we had the whole world, we would still eat 3 meals a day and sleep on one bed at a time. Even if we owned hundreds of beds or thousands of shoes, we can only use one at a time. Despite ordering hundreds of dishes, we can only eat enough to fill us. Social status and wealth vary, but the perception of pleasure and happiness doesn't. The happiness of the wealthy may be more complex, while that of the poor is much simpler. In life, there are joys and sorrows. At some point, when we reach a certain level of understanding, we'll see that every moment of happiness or sadness is valuable. Each experience, whether of joy or distress, whether we gain or lose, teaches us valuable lessons. Joy and sorrow might come early for some and later for others. Some may lose before they gain, others gain before they lose, but on reflection it all balances out. In the face of birth, aging, sickness, and death, human life is fragile. When we die, rich or poor, no one dies more comfortably or painfully than another. If someone lives fully, they lose equally in death, an absolute fairness. Those who gain early might lose early. Those who gain later lose later. Those who have nothing lose nothing. The net sum of gains and losses is always zero. Therefore, we shouldn't overthink or worry too much about what we gain or lose. Those who know satisfaction and understand the nature of gain and loss live the happiest, most content lives. 2. Going with the flow is a wise way to live. There's a saying, if you try too hard to make flowers bloom, they won't. But if you carelessly plant willows, they grow into a forest. In life, often when we desperately want something, we end up losing it, much like sand slipping through tightly clenched fingers. Instead, by going with the flow and opening our hands, we find we gain more than we lose. Ancient wisdom tells us, life and death are predestined, and wealth and honor are in heaven's hands. Therefore, for all matters in life, going with the flow is the best approach. People often suffer because they worry about gaining or losing, or they are overly concerned about certain issues. They stress themselves unnecessarily or chase after too much, and when they fail to achieve their desires, they lose their innate joy and peace, falling into misery. There is no need to force anything. Handling life's issues with a calm and natural approach and letting things take their natural course often leads to the best outcomes. If you encounter difficulties and can't find a good solution, it's sometimes best to just let things be. There's a story about a famous calligrapher who was invited to write a scroll at an ancient temple. While he was writing, his devoted student ground a lot of ink for him and critically assessed every piece he wrote. Despite the calligrapher's many attempts, the student was never satisfied, always commenting that each new scroll was worse than the last. Finally, when the student stepped outside, the calligrapher wrote with a calm mind, free from concern about the outcome. When the student returned and saw the scroll, he exclaimed it was a masterpiece. In any endeavor, obsessing over the desired outcome often leads to disappointment. If you act without specific expectations, letting things unfold naturally, you are more likely to achieve satisfying results. This aligns with the ancient saying, "Without seeking, you naturally achieve." Taishiang was a writer and calligrapher during the Northern Song dynasty, known for his thick beard, earning him the nickname Beautiful Beard. Once, Emperor Renzong joked with him, asking whether he slept with his beard under or over the blanket. That night, Taishiang couldn't sleep as he kept moving his beard in and out of the blanket, trying to find the best position. Eventually, he realized that normally he never paid attention to such things. Letting it be was more natural. Realizing this, he understood that living naturally without forcing things leads to comfort. Another fable tells of a young dog who tirelessly chased its tail, believing it would bring eternal happiness. A larger dog explained that it too had chased happiness in its youth without success. However, it later realized that when it stopped chasing and let things be, happiness and joy were always there, like its tail, following it around. Happiness and joy are parts of life that many people struggle to appreciate. Chasing after fame, status, or material pleasures can drain one's spirit and strength without bringing true happiness. Life's best gifts often come when you don't force them, but allow things to happen naturally. The highest state of life is to achieve without seeking, to find peace and good fortune by simply letting things be. 3. All arrivals and departures in life are a matter of fate. There's an old saying, with fate, no distance is too far. Without it, even face-to-face meetings mean nothing. Therefore, the comings and goings in life are all predestined, and we shouldn't resist them and live in sorrow. Everything depends on fate. No need to force anything. Those who believe in fate accept it calmly when it arrives and do not cling to it when it departs. From a state of going with the flow, they find peace and calm in their spirits. They understand that everything comes and goes according to fate, which is what people mean when they say, "Let it be." In fact, in everyone's life, there are many things that cannot be explained, leaving us always filled with thoughts and emotions. Some things make us believe that life seems to be prearranged. In a person's life, whom they meet and what happens seems predetermined. The ancients said, if it's meant to be, it will happen. If not, no force can make it. This means that if something is destined, it will occur at the right time. If not, no one can force it to happen. So why exhaust ourselves trying to change it? Learn to accept things calmly. One should learn to deal calmly with everything, treating both fairness and unfairness with equanimity, accepting everything that comes their way, whether they like it or not. That is the approach of the truly wise. When fate arrives, don't be overly joyful. When it leaves, there's no need to be dramatically sad. If in this life we lack that love, we still have family and friends beside us. If we don't have such close friends, we still have family. And if we don't have such a family, we still have our own life. Connections form and break, leaving behind both beautiful memories and a bit of regret. In everyone's life, what belongs to you will stay, and what doesn't will eventually leave. In life, cherish what comes and let go of what leaves. Let things go when it's time, facing everything calmly, valuing all that you currently have. This is the way to live naturally and freely. Clinging only leads to perpetual despair and a burdened spirit. People in this world, if too calculating, create bonds and burdens. Thus, don't be overly concerned. When you gain something, cherish it sincerely. When you lose something, don't grieve too much. Overthinking can rob you of happiness, while taking things lightly can make life more fulfilling and easier. Fate without destiny, destiny without fate are all parts of each person's life. We shouldn't let them become stepping stones to despair. Don't let the departure of fate breed resentment and live in sorrow. In life, value what comes and let go of what must leave. Only then can we truly live freely. Living in accordance with nature is not only wise, but also a higher state of enlightenment. Fate comes and goes like flowing water. Do not resist.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
4. Living with the rhythms of nature, wisdom from ancient times. The old saying goes, plow on sunny days, read on rainy days. This simple phrase concisely describes a life of ease and detachment, free from worldly concerns, embodying a noble spirit untroubled by petty annoyances and reflecting the wisdom of living in harmony with nature. In ancient times, before agriculture was fully developed and high-yield farming techniques or time pressures existed, people lived by the natural rhythm of the sun. They would start their field work at sunrise and stop by sunset. On rainy and windy days, they would rest at home, and the more ambitious among them would spend time reading or reciting poetry. Wasn't that a delightful way to live? Today, life has changed significantly. Even on rainy or stormy days, you might see farmers planting or fertilizing their crops. Modern society is so driven that many people work tirelessly, night and day, disrupting their natural rhythms, which can lead to impatience and irritability. Some even pride themselves on their diligence and despise rainy days for interrupting their tasks. Over time, working against nature's rhythms can lead to stress-related illnesses and other unusual diseases. Sunshine and rain follow nature's laws. Nature does not alter its course for human desires. Even with the most advanced scientific methods, humans cannot change these natural laws. They can only work within them, using a bit of smarts. Therefore, those who live in accordance with nature know to adjust their plans accordingly. On rainy days when outdoor work isn't possible, they might pause to enjoy music or delve into classic literature, using the time for relaxation and intellectual enrichment. In life, many things don't go as planned. A business might not meet its sales targets. Students might not achieve the exam results they hoped for, friends may drift away, and family members might suddenly leave. In such times of unchangeable adversity, going with the flow of nature is the most effective choice. Generally, if you can align with nature without forcing outcomes, you might achieve better results than expected. An old proverb states, "Intentionally planting flowers may not cause them to bloom, but planting willows carelessly may result in a forest." Often in life, the more you try to hold on to something like sand in your hand, the quicker it slips through your fingers. The source of many personal grievances is largely due to not living in harmony with nature and not understanding one's destiny. There's an old story about a Zen monastery with many dying plants in its garden. A young monk, worried about the unsightly garden, suggested to the abbot, "Master, we should quickly plant more seeds. It looks awful like this." The abbot replied calmly, "Don't rush. Every plant has its season. Let's wait for the right time. When the season arrived, the abbot bought seeds and handed them to the young monk to sow. Some seeds were blown away by strong winds. Concerned, the young monk said, "Master, many seeds have been blown away." The abbot responded calmly, "No matter, those were weak seeds which wouldn't have sprouted anyway. Don't worry, let things take their natural course." After sowing the seeds, birds began eating them. The young monk, alarmed, reported, "Master, the birds are eating the seeds." The abbot remained calm and said, "It's fine. There are plenty of seeds. The birds can't eat them all. Let it be." That night, it rained heavily. The next morning, the young monk worriedly told the abbot, "Master, the seeds are all drowned." The abbot replied, "Don't worry. Let things happen as they will." A week later, many green sprouts appeared on the ground, even in areas the young monk had not sown. Delighted, he clapped his hands joyously. The abbot nodded and said, "Be happy with it." Often, when facing difficulties and unable to find a solution, we should let things flow naturally, because the ancients taught, "Man plans, heaven decides," and if man aligns with the earth aligns with heaven. Heaven aligns with the Tao, and the Tao aligns with nature. Thus, living in accordance with nature is a high form of human wisdom. 5. Going with the flow, a Buddhist way of life. It's not always true that favorable situations bring happiness or that challenges lead to suffering. Sometimes, challenges can help us grow, while easy times might make us complacent. Everything depends on our resilience and attitude towards life. In Buddhism, going with the flow means accepting what happens in the present and calmly waiting for the right circumstances to come together. There's a story about the hottest time of the year when the grass in a Zen garden turned into a dry yellow carpet. "Clean up this grass, it looks awful," a young monk said. "Let's wait for cooler weather," the master replied, waving his hand. "It will happen in its own time." By mid-autumn, the master bought a bag of grass seeds and asked the young monk to scatter them. An autumn breeze blew away the freshly sown seeds. "Oh no, the wind blew the seeds away," the young monk exclaimed. "Don't worry, there are plenty more seeds and the wind won't stop them from growing," the master reassured. "Things will happen as they should." After the wind took the seeds, some birds came and ate them. "Oh no, the birds have eaten all the seeds," the young monk shouted, jumping around. "It's okay. There are plenty of seeds left. They won't eat them all," the master said. "It will work out." Then, a heavy rainstorm washed away the seeds. Early in the morning, the young monk rushed to the master's room. "Master, this time it's really over. The rain has washed all the seeds away." "Wherever they've gone, they will grow," the master responded. "Let it be." More than 2 weeks later, areas that were once bare were now covered with fresh green sprouts, including spots where no seeds were sown but still flourished. The young monk clapped his hands in joy. The master nodded. Joy comes in its own time. Acceptance, letting be, peace, and joy are 4 states that exemplify human life. Peace comes from acceptance, and often a calm attitude while waiting is the key to connecting with good opportunities. People often call good circumstances favorable and bad ones unfavorable. But in reality, situations are neither purely good nor bad, and what seems favorable might bring happiness or weakness, while challenges might lead to growth or suffering. Life is unpredictable, so what starts as favorable can turn challenging and vice versa. All depends on our resilience and outlook on life. Going with the flow doesn't mean giving up, as life is full of interactions and mutual influences. So, before you resign yourself to fate, remember that not trying means you've chosen to give up your chances. When you embrace letting things be, whatever comes and goes is the inevitable result of your choices. Living with the flow isn't just a theory, but a way of life. It means living without clinging to or resisting anything that happens, whether favorable or not. The experiences we encounter are lessons that enhance our life knowledge, regardless of whether they bring success or failure. So, instead of trying to change unsatisfactory situations, strive to seek the opportunities you desire. Once you find vitality within yourself, you won't depend on external values anymore. Every experience is valuable because you never know how today's failures might turn into tomorrow's blessings. 6. Embracing life's flow. Lessons in peace and resilience. Stay calm like water, worry less, go with the flow, and everything will be all right. In life, we often struggle with gains and losses and suffer from attachments. Buddha once said, "A single flower is a whole world, a tree is a lifetime, a blade of grass is a heaven, a leaf is a Buddha, a grain of sand is a paradise, every direction is a nirvana, every smile is a fleeting connection, every thought is a purification." When we are burdened with worries, our thoughts shallow. When our minds are calm like water, our worries naturally diminish. Life is not wasted if you give your all in everything you do. Only by opening your heart can you truly enjoy happiness. The best mindset to have is to let things flow naturally. Don't overthink about gains and losses. Ancients said, "Benefits come from blessings, and blessings come from misfortunes." The world is always in motion, and happiness and disasters are interdependent. Often we complain about our bad luck, thinking we can never keep happiness while misfortunes keep coming. As everyone knows, within good fortune, there is misfortune and vice versa. What you gain could also be what you lose. There is a story about an old man named Tai who lived near the border. He had a precious horse that one day wandered into the forest and disappeared. His acquaintances visited and he told them, losing the horse might actually be a good omen. Indeed, a few days later the horse returned with several fine steeds. When neighbors came to celebrate, he said, "Oh dear, gaining more horses might actually be a misfortune." His son, seeing the beautiful horses, spent all day riding and eventually broke his leg. People thought it was a disaster, but Tai calmly said, "This might actually be a blessing." Later, when the country went to war and most able-bodied men died in battle, his disabled son stayed and lived a long life with him, having children of his own. Indeed, within blessings, there are disasters, and within disasters, there are blessings. Life is unpredictable. The bad things you face today might bring opportunities tomorrow. Conversely, the good things you hope for might cause trouble someday. Just stay calm, treat everything with an ordinary heart, and gradually you'll realize luck comes by staying calm through everything. People come and go in life by fate. Famous poet Lam Tish once shared an experience. As a young man, he fell for a girl, but they couldn't be together. On a stormy night, unable to sleep and worried about her safety, he decided to call her at midnight. Surprisingly, she was sound asleep, barely responding before hanging up. Lam Tish was deeply saddened and expressed his feelings through poetry, keeping the relationship buried in his heart forever. People say relationships are destined. Buddha taught, it takes 500 looks back in past lives to earn a meeting in this life. People come and go. Fate is predetermined. Over the years, some destined relationships become indispensable, lasting throughout our lives. Others fade like smoke in the wind. Whether staying or leaving in life's journey, every meeting is determined by fate. As writer Haruki Murakami said, everyone has their own forest. Maybe we've never been there, but it has always been there. Some disappear entirely, others will meet again. The best way to interact with people is to be good yourself and then harmonize with others. Let go of those who do not love you. Avoid those who do not resonate with you. In this life, we cannot control fate, life, or strength. Don't chase a relationship endlessly. Cherish it if you encounter it, and let it go if you miss it, to live more comfortably. Be sincere with your life and let things flow naturally. Some things are yours, and they will be regardless of anything else. And what's not yours will never be, no matter what. You must learn to overcome things you cannot have with a bright smile and learn to let go of what you cannot wait for. Don't force anything. It's best to go with the flow. When Shakespeare was young, he had a conflict with a wealthy local and fled to London to avoid revenge. Initially, fearing he couldn't survive in a strange place, he tried to connect with influential people. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't maintain good relations with them. Later, he realized that instead of wasting his time, he should work harder to improve himself. From then on, Shakespeare focused entirely on learning drama. At that time, a surge in theater arts suddenly spread. With his own excellence, he had the honor to collaborate with famous figures, and his talent flourished. Shakespeare gradually became the most famous playwright in the region, and many influential people began inviting him to major parties. It shows that everyone has their own destiny, whether it's loss or gain, it's all predetermined. The only thing we need to do is work hard, keep up with the situation, and be sincere with our own life. No matter your age, create peace and tranquility within yourself. Face the world's complexity with an open, optimistic attitude. Life is too short. Let things flow naturally. Only then can you live peacefully throughout your life. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 7. The Wanderer and the Bodhisattva. There's a fable about a wanderer who entered a temple and saw a bodhisattva sitting on a lotus platform, being worshipped by everyone. He was filled with admiration. The wanderer found himself pausing and asked out loud, "Can I sit in your place for a moment?" A voice responded to him, "You cannot. You do not yet realize how disrespectful your request is. Stand beside here and watch, and if you keep quiet, no one will even notice you." The wanderer stood by the lotus platform. All day, the temple was bustling with people praying for various blessings. He managed to remain silent throughout. A few days later, a wealthy man came to the bodhisattva praying, "Please grant me a virtue." After bowing, he stood up, but his wallet fell to the ground. The wanderer almost spoke up to remind him, but remembering the bodhisattva's condition, he remained silent. After the wealthy man left, a poor man came in, praying for some money to treat his sick family member. After praying, he stood up and noticed the wallet on the ground. He exclaimed, "The bodhisattva truly is miraculous." The poor man took the wallet and left. The wanderer wanted to say it wasn't a miracle, but simply a dropped wallet, yet he remembered the condition and kept quiet. Then a fisherman came in, praying for safety at sea. After bowing as he was about to leave, the wealthy man, who had returned, grabbed him, accusing him of stealing the wallet, leading to a fight between the two. Unable to hold back any longer, the wanderer shouted, "Stop!" and explained the situation. The dispute was resolved. Afterwards, the voice spoke again to the wanderer, "Do you think you did the right thing? You believe you acted fairly, but now the poor man lacks the money to save his relative, the wealthy man lost a chance to develop virtue, and the fisherman might face dangers at sea. Had you remained silent, the life of the poor man's relative might have been saved, the wealthy man might have developed some humility from his loss, and the fisherman would have been delayed, avoiding the storm." The wanderer stood silently for a long time, bowed before the bodhisattva, and then left. This raises the question, Is going with the flow truly about doing nothing and letting things be? Not at all. Going with the flow means aligning with the natural order, like the sun, moon, and stars that move tirelessly to sustain life. People should also persistently work in good conscience. Therefore, it's said, "Heaven rewards the diligent." Expecting life's necessities without effort is unrealistic. On the flip side, many things in life are just as they are. In any situation, our approach should not be one of force or anxiety, but of maintaining righteousness in our hearts, striving diligently but without stubborn attachment. Everything else will follow the course of destiny, and what is meant to be will be. 8. Finding contentment, a tale of wisdom and simplicity. The greatest misfortune is not knowing when enough is enough, and the greatest harm comes from greed. LAOZI said, "There is no greater disaster than not knowing what is enough, no greater fault than the desire to get." Some people, once they have a stable life, then seek comfort. After achieving comfort, they pursue luxurious material pleasures. Indeed, having what we need is a blessing, but excessive greed only brings stress. If you normally eat 2 bowls of rice, and you eat an extra bowl just because you crave tastier food, it can lead to poor digestion. There is a fable about this. Long ago, during a flood, a group of about 5 or 6 people were fleeing. One of them, normally an excellent swimmer, lagged behind. His friend, puzzled, asked, "You're usually the best swimmer. Why are you trailing today?" Out of breath, he replied, "I have a lot of money tied to my back. It's too heavy underwater, so I can't swim well." His friends urgently advised him to drop the money. "Your life is at stake. What use is money now?" But he stubbornly refused to listen and ended up drowning while the others escaped. The Tao Te Ching states, "Excessive affection leads to enormous waste. Too much hoarding leads to heavy loss. Obsession always results in pain, and greed leads to ruin. Holding on too tightly to something often comes at a high cost. Human suffering stems from greed. Don't let external troubles invade your peace of mind. Don't let greed block someone else's path. The road is there for everyone to share, and the more who travel it, the smoother it becomes. Don't fight for things you shouldn't have because of desire." Often, undeserved status brings disaster. Our happiness and sorrow stem from our own minds. If you want to live happily, start by not harboring greed or baseless desires. Understanding this is essential. The hardest thing in life is to be truly aware. Once you understand, you naturally smile, and once you see clearly, you can let go. Ancient wisdom says, "In spring there are 100 flowers, in autumn the moon, in summer a cooling breeze, in winter snow." If your heart is free of disturbances, then every season is a good one. Life is full of troubles. If you face them with a calm mind and take them lightly, you will feel unburdened. Those who truly understand what they want pursue their goals undisturbed by greed or desire. Such individuals are not troubled by negativity or trivial losses from the past. Living without greed or worry, you can free yourself from pressure and sadness. This way, you can focus on truly meaningful activities. 9. Virtue comes from contentment while disaster stems from greed. Ancient wisdom suggests that those who are content are truly wealthy and happy. Not only do they know when to stop, they don't relentlessly pursue their desires or let greed control them. Thus, they avoid disgrace and future misfortunes. This is a principle discussed by LAOZI in the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching, written by LAOZI around 600 BCE, contains several chapters emphasizing the virtue of contentment. In chapter 30, LAOZI states, "He who is content is rich." Chapter 44 further says, "To love excessively is to lose much. To hoard excessively is to lose even more. Know what is enough, avoid excessive greed, and you will not face disgrace or danger, ensuring longevity. Chapter 46 continues. No disaster is greater than not knowing contentment. No fault is greater than wanting to get excessively. Knowing that you have enough ensures that you always will. LAOZI's concept of knowing enough implies focusing inwardly rather than outwardly, pursuing simplicity and spiritual richness. During the Three Kingdoms period, Wang Bi, a commentator on the Tao Te Ching, wrote, "He who knows contentment is always rich because he does not lose anything." Those who are content are not disturbed or controlled by material greed, so even if they lose materially, they remain undisturbed. Wang Bi also noted, "One who knows contentment knows when to stop. They do not seek externally, but focus on internal cultivation." This highlights the importance of seeking spiritual rather than material wealth. Fame and fortune are external and ephemeral. Pursuing and holding on to too much will inevitably lead to loss. One should maintain fame and fortune only to a reasonable extent and know when it is enough to ensure longevity. The greatest flaw in human nature is insatiable greed, a never-ending lack of contentment. One can always feel content by reducing desires and feeling satisfied. Thus, Wang Bi stated, "Without desires, one knows contentment, and following nature leads to knowing contentment." LAOZI highly valued the principle of knowing enough. He believed that recognizing contentment could determine honor or disgrace, life or death, fortune or disaster. A person who knows contentment will feel rich, regardless of their actual wealth, because they feel no lack. Conversely, those who do not know contentment may invite disaster, regardless of their wealth. For rulers, excessive desires can lead to great disasters. Thus, they must cultivate the spirit of contentment to control their desires and ensure peace and stability. In the Han Feizi, it is written, "Fortune comes from having no desires, while disaster comes from having desires." Knowing contentment brings wealth. The greedy, even owning the world, are not rich. People must know contentment when faced with wealth and power. If one cannot do this, exceeding certain limits of desire will inevitably lead to disgrace. Such a person will suffer significant losses materially, socially, and spiritually. During the Ming Dynasty, a humble scholar, though poor, thanked heaven daily for his blessings. His wife, puzzled by this, asked, "How can eating thin porridge thrice a day be considered a blessing?" The scholar replied, "Living in peace without war is the greatest blessing. Having clothes to wear and food to eat, not suffering from the cold or hunger, is the second greatest blessing. Being healthy, free from disasters, and not being imprisoned is the third. Aren't these blessings enough?" Many saw the scholar as unsuccessful, but he felt happy because he knew contentment. His happiness came from a relative perspective. A person who is content with their social and professional status might not appear successful to others, but they will always be joyful and happy. Knowing enough is the way to hold happiness in your hands.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
10. The art of not trying. Those who stand on their toes cannot stand firm. Those who rush forward don't go very far. Those who try to outshine others dim their own light. How can we improve when we stop trying to improve? Many people waste their effort trying to make their lives better, often with debatable outcomes. They absorb knowledge and chase external things, exhausting their bodies and burdening their minds, only to remain dissatisfied. Taoist philosophers observe that humans tend to act in inefficient ways. In their attempts to alter the workings of nature, they only make things worse. All the struggle, standards, and moral values clearly created for human benefit seem counterproductive. According to Taoist wisdom, we should let go of all these. Why? Because human-made concepts only distance us further from the natural flow of life. Trying to amend what nature has set is like swimming against the current. It exhausts us and leads nowhere. This video talks about not trying to change the world, to actually gain the world. Behind a continuously moving universe is a mysterious, indefinable force the Taoists call the Way or Tao, limited by the bounds of language. The Way encompasses everything and is beyond everything our senses can detect. Yet, we can still know and feel the Tao, even if we cannot fully comprehend it. This symbolizes the tragic efforts of humans to concretize things that are beyond their understanding. They use names, categories, and distinctions, but cannot grasp what the universe truly is. Therefore, they create a distorted concept, something artificial and frivolous, simply to make life comprehensible. But by trying to understand, they lose the Tao. 1. The tragedy of trying. Lao Tzu, in his text Tao Te Ching, wrote, "5 colors blind the eye, 5 notes deafen the ear, 5 tastes dull the mouth." By arranging colors, sounds, and tastes, we might enhance understanding but also limit it, since numerous things lie beyond these fixed ideas. The same goes for human tendencies to set rigid rules for everything, seeking a sense of control. 2. How we try. Modern efforts to implement ancient philosophies in life are often minimal. Alan Watts, a scholar deeply versed in Taoism, pointed out that those with great noble ideals tend to cause the most disruption. Their must-save-the-world attitude often disrupts the natural flow because they are always seeking ways to implement their ideas of good and evil. We might wonder, is using the faults of others to cast ourselves in a good light truly virtuous? This is also why social justice warriors are often intensely disliked. By demonizing certain groups while positioning ourselves on a moral high ground in a one-sided way, we only create more division, tension, and fail to change things for the better in a lasting way. 3. Trying for happiness. Pursuing money, status, fame, power, or knowledge. Our unceasing efforts to be happy are exactly why we are not happy. We think we are happy when we have $1 million in the bank, or when we publish a book, or when our YouTube channel hits 100,000 subscribers. But this is not true happiness as understood by Taoism. Chasing these shallow forms of happiness, we exhaust our bodies and minds and, tragically, never achieve what we are seeking. In conclusion, Taoism teaches that trying to alter nature is a futile pursuit. Instead of adding knowledge, we should let go of it until we reach a deep inner stillness. Only then are we truly embracing the Tao, or as theology might call it, God. In this empty state, we find joy, and joy is true happiness. This process, called the fasting of the heart by Taoists, involves daily letting go, reaching a state of non-action, where nothing is unsolvable. This is the art of not trying, where everything can be resolved effortlessly. 11. The story of the Jewish people. There's an old saying, "Doing good is the greatest joy." Indeed, human nature is quite extraordinary. When we do something wrong, we feel uneasy and unhappy inside. But when we do good without expecting anything in return, we feel truly joyful. This joy comes from the act of giving. Some people think that you need to have a lot of money to help others or make a difference. But in truth, even without material things, we can still give meaningfully. Sometimes just a word of encouragement, a kind look, or a warm smile can turn someone's day around. Even these small gestures can inspire others to be better. In some places around the world, giving is not just voluntary. It's seen as an unspoken rule that everyone follows. In the rural areas of Israel, during harvest time, people leave some crops at the corners of their fields unharvested. Do you know why? This part of the harvest is left for anyone to enjoy. They believe that God has given the Jewish people who have faced many hardships a peaceful and happy life now. So, they leave crops at the field corners as a way to show gratitude to God for their lives today and to provide food for those in need who pass by. Keeping a little of the harvest for others to enjoy embodies sharing and unconditional giving. They believe that giving and sharing are ways to express gratitude, happiness, and uphold good moral values. Additionally, every year the Jewish community celebrates the festival of Hanukkah, the festival of lights, to remember abundance. During this festival, they gather with family and friends around a candelabrum that holds several candles. They light these candles and pray each night. The Jewish belief is that living with a sense of abundance makes them happier, both materially and spiritually. From ancient times, they have been taught to embrace this concept. The Jewish view of abundance is also reflected in the commandments, advising to love others as oneself. This is because their ancestors endured suffering and slavery. Without generosity from neighbors, strangers, and God, survival would have been impossible. Therefore, they believe that giving is simply the right thing to do. As a famous Jewish rabbi once said, "No one has ever become poor by giving." 12. A story from rural South Korea. The principle of giving is not unique to the Jewish community but is also practiced in South Korea. In the rural areas of northern South Korea, there are many persimmon orchards. During the harvest season, local farmers leave ripe persimmons on the trees. As a result, these large, ripe fruits create a beautiful scenic route. Visitors passing by are always impressed by the beauty of the road and the appealing sight of the ripe persimmons. Local people say that no matter how large or delicious the persimmons are, they leave them on the trees to feed the hithialope birds. Why do they have this custom? Originally, this area was a frequent stopover for the hithialope birds. Every winter, these birds would come here, build nests in the persimmon trees, and survive the harsh winter. One year, it was exceptionally cold and snowy. Hundreds of hithialope birds, unable to find food and suffering from the cold, died overnight. The following spring, the persimmon trees sprouted new green leaves, flowered, and bore fruit. But at that time, suddenly, insects appeared and caused a plague, almost wiping out the persimmon crop that year. Since then, every autumn, which is the season for harvesting ripe persimmons, the locals leave some ripe fruits on the trees as food for the hithialope birds to help them through the winter. These tasty fruits attract many hithialope birds to stay and survive the winter. It seems the hithialope birds are grateful to the people. In the spring, they don't hurry away but stay to catch insects for the trees, ensuring that each year the persimmon trees bear delicious and juicy fruits. Indeed, providing others a path to life often gives us hope and a chance to survive. In nature, everything depends on one another. Ancient wisdom teaches, one's prosperity benefits all and one's harm affects all. Giving is a joyful and satisfying act, because giving does not mean losing something completely, but rather it's a noble way of gaining. Giving is a happiness because it can enrich our spirit. If possible, let's be willing to give more. 13. Understanding contentment leads to happiness. An old saying goes, "A greedy person will always want more, much like a snake wishing to swallow an elephant. If someone doesn't know when they have enough, even a vast fortune won't satisfy them. Lao Tzu wrote, "To know when you have enough is to be perpetually content." During the Ming Dynasty, there was a poor scholar who taught and worshipped daily, expressing gratitude to the heavens. His wife, puzzled by his thankfulness despite their meager meals of thin porridge, asked, "How can this be considered a blessing?" The scholar replied, "Living in peace without war or disaster is the greatest happiness. Having clothes to wear and enough food so we're not cold or starving is the second greatest happiness. Being healthy and free from calamity with no family in jail is the third. Having all these, aren't we truly blessed?" Contentment and gratitude naturally bring happiness, as happiness is relative. This idea is vividly illustrated in ancient Chinese characters. The characters for sufficiency and desire sound similar and have similar structures, but their meanings are opposite. Sufficiency combines the characters for clothing and grain, suggesting that having basic necessities was considered ample in ancient times. People then focused on agriculture and hunting, adjusting to the weather and honoring the spirits, hoping for favorable conditions and bountiful harvests. Being well fed and warm led to feelings of joy and contentment, aligning with the principle, seeing enough, one always feels joy. Looking at modern life, most have achieved well-being beyond just being fed and clothed. Many enjoy fine food and fashion. Yet, this often doesn't satisfy human desires, leading to persistent discontent. This is the result of desire, indicated by combining the characters for grain and lack, implying that even with enough, one can feel deficient if they do not recognize their sufficiency. Contentment brings joy even to the impoverished, while ignorance of it brings sorrow to the wealthy. In any situation, changing our perspective and attitude can transform our circumstances. Valuing what we have now involves not dwelling on what we lack, but focusing on what we possess and what we can give. If we fail to appreciate the present, even what we have may not last, let alone what we desire. Typically, surviving a disaster or recovering from a severe illness can profoundly enhance a sense of contentment, multiplying happiness. Conversely, greed and lack of contentment can lead one astray, inviting unnecessary misfortune. Indeed, human desires are endless. If one fails to learn contentment and does not reflect on their nature, chasing endless desires can be fatal. As the ancients taught, seeing enough usually brings joy, but excessive desire can be deadly. 14. Who has taken away our joy and happiness? Everyone desires to feel joyful and happy in their lives. Some people think that the more money and higher status they have, the greater their joy and happiness will be. However, in reality, these things are not connected. A wanderer with no money in his pockets can still be utterly joyful, whereas a wealthy and powerful person may not necessarily be happy. The book Min Tam Bao Jiam contains a passage that says, "If the heart is at peace, even a straw hut feels stable. If the temperament is calm, even eating roots can taste fragrant. The world should be quiet to see clearly, and human relationships should be mild to last long. If someone's heart is not at peace, they will never feel stable or secure. Those who harbor strong desires and cravings will never truly experience the delightful flavors of life. Only those with a peaceful heart and a calm temperament can enjoy a simple, unpretentious life and genuinely feel happiness. If a person's joy comes from satisfying their desires, then, as soon as one desire is fulfilled, another arises. Thus, their life becomes like an endless cycle, never reaching true happiness. In fact, the satisfaction a poor person feels from buying a bicycle can be the same as a rich person's joy from purchasing a car. Similarly, The contentment a poor person gets from a full meal is equivalent to a rich person's pleasure from a gourmet feast. A noisy and hectic society can sway people's emotions and mental states, leading to feelings of anger and doubt where they can neither eat comfortably nor sleep peacefully. Even surrounded by delicacies, they can't enjoy them. Many people, despite living in grand homes, feel troubled and sad all day. Some, even in luxurious apartments, feel as lonely as if they were in a prison, unable to enjoy a peaceful, happy life. Thus, no one steals our joy and happiness. It is we who drive them away. When our hearts are filled with greed, resentment, and strife, how can we possibly be cheerful, relaxed, and happy? A person with an unsettled inner self lacks a free spirit and thus happiness. If someone's heart is as steady as a mountain, not disturbed by the chaos of the world, then surely they have attained great wisdom. Those who are anxious will often find themselves exhausted by life's disturbances. However, a person with a peaceful inner self can face all the hardships of life with a light heart and naturally live in happiness and tranquility. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 15. 3 timeless wisdoms from Lao Tzu on leading a wise and harmonious life. Lao Tzu, in the Tao Te Ching, highlights 3 qualities wise people should maintain: simplicity, calmness, and gentleness. These are also considered great wisdoms in Taoist philosophy. 1. Simplicity. Lao Tzu advocated for humility and preferred staying out of the limelight. He believed that wise people should not boast or show off. Instead, they should keep their brilliance hidden, appearing ordinary or even less capable than others. This is because envy and rivalry are common in society, and being unassuming helps avoid conflicts and makes achieving goals easier. This idea is somewhat similar to Confucian teachings, which suggest being substantial yet appearing insubstantial. 2. Calmness. According to Lao Tzu, to clear muddy water, one must let it be still until the dirt settles. The same applies to the human mind. Tranquility allows one to see things clearly. In the Tao Te Ching, it's mentioned that calmness is the master of activity. A calm person can control their impulsive nature and maintain rationality, which is crucial in leadership and making informed decisions. 3. Gentleness. Lao Tzu believed that water, despite being soft and yielding, can erode hard stone over time. This exemplifies that softness and flexibility can overcome hardness and rigidity. The idea is that life embodies gentleness. Things that are alive are flexible, whereas rigid things break easily. This principle also applies to strategy and interactions, where adaptability is more effective than stiffness. Moreover, water's nature of nurturing without claiming ownership is seen as the highest virtue, being kind and selfless, which gains love and support from others. 16. The power of focus, a lesson from LAOZI. In the 6th century BC, a humble and modest philosopher named LAOZI was born in China. His deep insights were highly valued and his words required careful thought. One day, news of his wisdom reached the emperor, who was skeptical and refused to believe someone could be wiser than him. Curious, the emperor himself decided to meet LAOZI after failing to summon him through his servants. The emperor found LAOZI in a simple thatched cottage in a small garden, dressed plainly and tending to his vegetables. When asked if he was LAOZI, he calmly confirmed and inquired how he could assist. The emperor expressed his disbelief in LAOZI's ordinary appearance and questioned how he could know if LAOZI was truly extraordinary. LAOZI replied, How can an ordinary man see the extraordinary? This response surprised the emperor, who admired LAOZI's calm demeanor despite appearing like a common farmer. The emperor, eager to learn how to achieve such tranquility, was instructed by LAOZI to return the next morning before sunrise. When he returned, LAOZI asked him to water the garden silently and individually, starting over if any thoughts distracted him. This task proved more challenging than the emperor anticipated, repeatedly starting over as various thoughts invaded his focus. After many attempts, the emperor, drenched in sweat and exhausted, was unable to complete the task. LAOZI approached him, pleased with his honesty, and shared that true mental strength emerges when the mind is clear of thoughts. This simplicity could bring immense peace and wisdom. The emperor realized the importance of focusing the mind and decided to practice controlling his thoughts rather than letting them control him. This story illustrates that in any area of life, focusing the mind is crucial for development, whether in everyday tasks or meditation. By practicing mindfulness and staying present in the moment, one can reduce stress and improve both health and intelligence. Remember, true wisdom arises from a focused and quiet mind. 17. The teachings of Lao Tzu. If you follow natural laws, nothing is impossible. Work should have a clear beginning and end, and a solid basis. Empty talk gains no respect. Actions aligned with human ethics and natural order result in lasting and sustainable outcomes. Wise people focus on their tasks without competing for credit. Because they don't vie for recognition, no one struggles against them. In fact, their non-competitive approach often leads to victory over those who do compete because they act in a way that benefits humanity without causing harm. Knowing others is a sign of intelligence, but knowing oneself is true wisdom. Conquering others requires strength, but conquering oneself shows true power. Success comes from mastering oneself. Stopping at the right time can prevent you from falling into dire situations. Being a good person involves cultivating virtues and avoiding evil deeds, as misdeeds can weigh you down from one life to the next. Lao Tzu advised governing with integrity, using adaptability in strategy, and achieving peace through non-action. On a smaller scale, imposing on others can lead to a lack of respect. Successful people recognize and develop the talents of others, allowing them to grow and contribute without oppression. Babies are soft and weak at birth but become stiff and strong in death. Similarly, plants are tender when they sprout but become brittle when they die. Thus, rigidity is associated with death, while softness suggests life. Success comes not from being inflexible but from balancing firmness with gentleness. A good leader places themselves below others. If one only focuses on personal gain and disrespects others, they are positioning themselves arrogantly, which will not win people's hearts. The more you talk, the less effective your words become. Repeated explanations often lead to confusion and speechlessness. It's better to know yourself and your audience and speak substantively rather than filling the air with empty words that garner no respect. 18. 6 things to let go of and 6 things to hold on to in middle age. As people enter middle age, they begin a new chapter in life. Having experienced many ups and downs and encountered various people and situations, middle-aged individuals should know there are things to let go of and things to hold on to. 6 things to let go of in middle age. 1. Let go of grudges. Grudges and past hurts often fade with time. Holding on to resentment towards others only punishes yourself. Life is full of beauty. Don't trap yourself in bitterness. 2. Let go of hesitation. Once you know what you want to do, don't hesitate. Middle-aged people are often more careful and stable than the youth and have more energy than the elderly. With better conditions and more experience, seize opportunities without delay. 3. Let go of vanity. Vanity and deceit are significant obstacles in life. In middle age, there's no need to seek approval or be envious of others' superficial gains. Letting go of vanity brings freedom and happiness. 4. Let go of worries. Most worries are self-created. Whether you spend your day downcast or joyful, it's still a day. Living with a positive attitude makes a difference in your well-being. 5. Let go of pressure. In youth, people often push themselves hard in their careers. As you reach middle age, slow down. Don't let excessive pressure lead to stress and illness. 6. Let go of overbearing parenting. Children have their own destinies. As they make their way in the world, parents should be supportive but not controlling. Letting go allows your children to grow and navigate their own paths confidently. 6 things to hold on to. 1. Health. Many people realize in middle age that their health isn't what it used to be. When healthy, don't take it for granted. Sickness reminds us that being free from illness is a true blessing. 2. Family. Family is a warm harbor. In middle age, the importance of family becomes clearer, providing strength to overcome life's challenges. 3. Friendship. Good friends are like warm clothes in the cold winter. The quality of a person often reflects the kind of friends they have. Cherish these relationships as they are crucial throughout life. 4. Character. Integrity is valuable at any age, but middle age brings a deeper understanding of its worth. Maintain and nurture good character not just for yourself, but also to guide the younger generations in your family. 5. Speech and behavior. Speaking wisely is an art. With maturity, understand that less is more when it comes to words. Avoid speaking in a way that looks down on others or causes irreversible hurt. 6. Doing good deeds. Look around and you'll see many in need. Helping those less fortunate not only supports them but also plants seeds for a better future for yourself.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.